So it's good to have you here. Just before we start, actually, I wonder if you could all, if you can, stick a 1 in the chat if you are currently using Google Shopping, and a 2 if you're not, just so that I've got an idea of kind of where we're at. So we've got a 1, 2, and a 2. Okay, so right, good. Okay, so we have got somebody David who isn't, and a couple of people who are. So that's good. So I just want to, just so I know the level of people. So I am kind of go back to basics at the beginning of this, but then we will, so stick with me if this is all familiar with you, because I'll be moving on to stuff that's more relevant for you if you've already done Google Shopping. But for those of you who haven't, just to kind of go through what I'm going to be covering as well. I am going to look a little bit, talk about Google Merchant Center and product feeds and just the overall how it all works and how it all fits together. Because I do remember that when I first started, I don't know why, but it just took me a while to get my head around how everything fitted together when you had feeds and Merchant Center and Google Ads and all this kind of stuff. So I'm going to cover that a little bit to start with. Then I'm going to move on to shopping campaigns and talk a bit about those and how to set them up, then talk about a few of the biggest mistakes I see when I kind of audit accounts, and then talking about KPIs and how to actually track and make sure that your campaigns are profitable. Okay, so talking about Merchant Center. Okay, so I'm not in presentation mode. So I had this beautifully set up so it would all pop up step by step, but I'm not in presentation mode, so I can see everything on my screen. So as an overview of how it all works, you've got your store. I've got this shown as a Shopify store here. So you've got your store on one side, you've got Google Ads over here on the other side, where you will actually run your shopping campaigns. And then sat in the middle is Google Merchant Center. Now, Merchant Center acts as a repository for all your product information, because what we have to do is you have to take the product information from your store and you have to put it into Google Merchant Center. And then when it's in, what happens in Google Merchant Center obviously then is that Google verify all the information. There are certain what we call attributes, things like price, title, description, stock availability, images, all this information that you need to have in your product feed, and Google will verify that that's all as it needs to be in the format that it needs to be. And it does all of that in Merchant Center. And when Google are happy that everything in your product feed is in the format and, you know, set up as it needs to be, it will then become active. The products will become active in Merchant Center, and that is when then you can link it to your Google Ads account and start running Google shopping campaigns. Now, you can link your store directly to Merchant Center and push the product information directly from your store into Merchant Center, or you can use a feed management tool which kind of sits separately from the whole system. And if you use a feed management tool, you will push your product data from your store into the feed management platform, where you can manipulate the information in the feed. So you can do things like editing titles and descriptions to make them better optimized for Google Shopping and for people to search for your products. You can edit them inside of that platform without having to touch what's on your actual website. So you're changing titles for Google Shopping without having to change, for example, product titles on your website. If you have the budget for it, I would highly recommend that you use a feed management tool, because it allows you to do lots of other stuff. You can add custom labels to help you organize your inventory better. and you know, it's easier to kind of deal with it, and it gives you more control, really. I'll probably use the word control a lot today. I'm not a control freak, I promise, but but when it comes to this kind of thing, I suppose I am, really. And then once you've got your feed set up as you want it in your management platform, then you push it through to Merchant Center, and the rest of it is the same. So Merchant Center then pushes the information into Google Ads for you to run your shopping campaigns. So that's kind of how the whole system overall works. For those of you that aren't familiar with, if you haven't set up a Google Merchant Center account, you just go to merchants.google.com. You sign up with the same email address that you're using for your Google Ads account, and then everything kind of makes it a little bit easier. What Google will then do, once you've set up your account, you'll have to add, you add all your, in fact, I've got a Merchant Center open here. No, it's over there. Okay, we've got, this is where I've got everything in the way. Can't see everything. There we go. So this is it's just an empty test Merchant Center account. So you'll need to come in here when you first set it up. You'll have to enter your business information. So just contact details. You have to, oh, this is being slow. So there's all your business information. You have to claim and verify your website. So you'll have to, there are various ways that you can verify a website. I've got a link to my YouTube channel at the end, because I've got videos on how to do all of this stuff on the YouTube channel. So this is not a purely a Merchant Center webinar today. So you have to claim your website, you upload your logos here. That's for smart campaigns and for remarketing campaigns and things like that. You have to add your tax information if that's relevant for you. And you can add your delivery and return settings here. Vivian, you raised your hand. Have you got a question? Have a question? Stick it in the, well, stick it in the chat or the Q&A, because I've got both of them open here if you've got a question. I'll carry on chatting, and if you, Vivian, if you've got a question, just stick it in either. I can see both of those at the moment, so, but I'll carry on. So yeah, you have to add obviously all your business information in here, and then, but you also have to make sure, because Google will, there's certain things that you have to have on your website that Google will check before it will approve your merchant account and approve your feed. You have to have things like a privacy policy. You have to have your shipping prices visible on your website. This is the thing that kind of, whenever new merchants do try and set up shopping. Something gets out of my laptop, not on Zoom, hopefully can get you again. Okay, no worries, no worries, Vivian. I've got, I'll be sending out a link to the recording, so hopefully you'll be able to watch that. You'll be able to watch that when you've got some sound. Where was I? Yeah. When most people first set up shopping and they wonder why they can't get their feed approved when it's all done, it's usually something on the website. You have to have contact information on your website. And I don't mean just a contact form. You either have to have a visible phone number or a visible email address. I would recommend you have both, really. You have to have your shipping prices visible on your website. You have to have a returns policy. You have to have a privacy policy, which talks about cookies, because if you're going to be remarketing and doing smart campaigns, you need to talk about that. You have to have a fully working checkout. So you can't do Google Shopping on a website where you have to log in to access prices and to add things to your cart. So like, for example, a wholesale, where you've got wholesale websites where you can't actually add anything to your cart until you've logged in. You have to have a fully working checkout. You have to show what payment options you accept. And yeah, so all that has to be on your website as well before anything will be approved in. So you can run the shopping ads. As I mentioned before, inside Google Merchant Center, you have to claim and verify your website, upload your logos, add your business and tax settings, add shipping options, agree to their terms and policies, and then you have to link it to Google Ads as well. So there's an option inside Merchant Center, the linked accounts here, where you actually excuse me, you actually link to your excuse me, you have to link to your Google Ads account. And this is where if you're using the same email list, that bit makes it's a lot easier. Okay, so that's sort of setting up how we set up Google Merchant Center. And then once you've put all your information inside Google Merchant Center, let's move those windows out of the way, bear with, okay. Then obviously you've got the problem of getting your feed information, your product feed, your data of your products into Google Merchant Center. Now there's essentially 3 different ways of doing this. The feed management tool I mentioned at the beginning, so you can use this separate platform where you get your information into the tool and then you push it from the tool into Merchant Center. I use Data Feed Watch. I really like it. There's Go Data Feed. There are, I can't remember, there are lots of different feed management platforms. They're all really good. So just find one which kind of suits your budget and which, you know, have a little test drive. Most of them will do like a demo for you, so you can see which one you like. You can, I'm going backwards because I want to show you the Google Sheet at the end. You can have your product data, as I said again in the beginning, getting pushed directly from your website into Merchant Center. Platforms like Shopify, BigCommerce, I'll say Magento, most of those either have it built in, this functionality built in, or there'll be an app that you can get to bolt onto your back end that will allow you to just kind of push all this information off into Merchant Center. If you've got a custom coded website or kind of maybe a bit more obscure platform, you might need to get a developer involved. It depends what your website, what you're running your website on. The advantage of both of these 2 options, the direct export and the feed management, because it's a constant continual link, you can keep your product data up to date. So if you're oh, Gavin, you're on WooCommerce. Yeah, WooCommerce, again, I think that there's a plugin that you can get that'll push it in from WooCommerce. So both of these, because they're a direct link and it's kind of always live, and you can set it to sort of sync anything up to hourly, but I'd say minimum daily. If you've got a big inventory that's always changing, you've got products always coming out and in of stock, you can keep your campaigns up to date. Okay, so that's the sort of advantage of doing it this way. The simplest way, if you are just getting going and you have a relatively small inventory, I would say I probably wouldn't want to do it this way for more than about 50 or 100 products, and definitely not if your inventory changes a lot. And that is to use a Google Sheet. So it's free to do this, and you do it basically, I'm going to show you, you can get a template from Merchant Center. So inside Google Merchant Center here, you go to products and you're going to add multiple products. You can just do a Google shopping campaign on one product, by the way. You're going to add in a new feed, you're going to continue, and then your first option here is Google Sheets. Okay, so basically what this does, I'm going to just call it test. It allows you to store all your product data in a Google Sheet. So it just allows you to click through. You have to obviously link it to your Google account. You might already have one set up, but if you haven't, then you can generate a new Google spreadsheet from a template, and it will, in a moment, it will give you the template to use to insert your product information. Okay, come along, come along. Okay, so you can see this is my feed here, my primary feed called test. My input method is Google Sheets, and you just click open. And this is where all your product information will be stored, here. Let's move everything out of the way. Okay, so this is a very basic feed kind of template where you've got ID, title, description, link, condition, price, availability, image link, your GTIN, your barcode number, your manufacturer's part number, brand, Google product category, and your shipping. There are links to the full feed specifications on Google. But basically what you do here is you stick your product ID, which you can just, IDs all have to be unique. Every product in your feed has to have a unique ID. So you'd go ID, you go product, title, description goes here, and then you paste the link to your product, direct to your product page here. Condition, new or used, price. Now the format for your price I always have, do you know what? I always have to look this up. I think you actually have to put your currency and then your price, like that. And then availability will be in stock, out of stock, or pre-order. I mean, the rest of this is all kind of self-explanatory, really. And you just keep going down the list, giving each one a unique ID, adding all your product information, and then that will always be stored in this Google Sheet. You finished, it's always being saved. Obviously, you just close down the sheet, and it's all stored. So next time, when you want to edit something, you then just click here, open up the sheet again, and make your edits. So if you add new products, you'd have to come in here, add new products to your list. If your prices change, you'll have to come in here and manually update everything. So you can see it's a little bit more, it's more time intensive, if that's the way of putting it. But it's, it's free. If you've got a relatively small inventory that doesn't change very often, then it's, it's a good option to use. Okay, so that's how we get our products into or rather how we sort of set up our feed and get our product information into that feed in Merchant Center. So I hope that all makes sense. I don't know if anybody's got any questions, just stick them in chat or Q&A. Actually, I've got both of them open here, so stick your questions in as you go along if you have them. But does that make sense so far? Just like stick a 1 in the chat if I'm making sense so far. That would be great. Okay, absolutely, thank you, Gavin, wonderful. Okay, the next thing I want to talk about is optimizing your product feed. Again, I did a whole webinar. I've got a whole webinar recording about optimizing your product feed on the YouTube channel. But you do need to think about optimizing, and everybody's, everybody talks about optimizing product feed optimization, and there are companies that's all they do is product feed optimization, and you kind of sometimes, I don't know, sometimes you think, oh, how hard can it be? It can be really complicated, but I just want to keep it to the basics. Google Shopping, because you don't use keywords to target your ads for Google Shopping, you use the information in your products. So Google looks at your product title, your product description, and all the information, and that's how it decides when to show your ad, depending on what somebody searches for. So I kind of like to think about it as kind of like SEO, as search engine optimization. So the example I use is if I'm kind of a fancy leather satchel brand, and I've got these really cool names for my satchels. Like I've got this bag that's called the Henry. Oh, that's a Hoover, but you know what I'm saying. I've got a bag that's called Madeline, for example. You know, a Madeline in navy blue. Like as a product title on your website probably looks lovely, but when it comes to people looking for your bag, it's a waste of time, because nobody's going to search for a Madeline satchel. They're going to search for a navy blue leather satchel. So that's why it's important to make sure your product titles are relevant to what people will search for. Now, there's also, I've got, by the way, I've got bit.ly links all over this presentation, but you've got this one here. I did a blog post ages ago. It's a video and a blog post. So bit.ly / I think you have to use the capitals on this, EEM-titles. It gives you some templates of how to, if I see another hand raised, if you've got a question, stick it in the chat or the Q&A, and I will do my best to answer. So yeah, that's got a whole list of kind of templates to how to structure your titles. In fact, I should have had that up already. Let's have a quick look. It's basically looks and says, right, what do you need in your product title? Let's have a look. Where is it? Here it is. And it looks at, so it gives you some structures. So if you're selling apparel, then this is the kind of suggested ways of structuring your title. So for example, you might have Adidas, running shoes, ladies, and then if you have relevant keywords, and then navy blue size 5. So that's kind of the best way, some of the best ways to structure your titles. Various different, as you can see, home and garden, and more generic ones. So you might have a material, product type, color and brand. Material, leather, oh here we go, leather, satchel, navy blue, and then your brand goes at the end, because that's kind of the least, if it's not a well-known brand, it's kind of the least important. So this is quite a good thing to have. Just bookmark this. I mean, I didn't create these templates. This was from GoDataFeed, which I've mentioned. Was it GoDataFeed? Yeah, GoDataFeed. I think I've got a link to their links. I've got a link to their blog post about that somewhere. So this is where, there we go. So that's probably the most important thing that you need to think about when it comes to optimizing your feed, is your product title, because that's kind of all the ones that are, it's probably the highest the most relevant, the highest importance, is that your product title contains the keywords that people will search for, not just random kind of product names. And again, this is where I mentioned having a feed platform. We've all seen Amazon products which have most ridiculous product titles, because they've just stuffed every single keyword in the product title, and it's just ridiculous. You don't want that on your website. You don't want, you know, massively long product titles. It's just ridiculous. It's just going to look awful. So that's where a feed management platform allows you to stick all those keywords in the product title for Google Shopping, while not having to have them all messing up your lovely, beautiful layout on your website. So I've just listed what I think really are the kind of the 4 main places where you need to optimize. Would be your title, your description. Again, you need to include keywords. You need to make sure it's descriptive. Don't copy and paste. We've all done it. You have supplier data, you just copy and paste and you stick it on your website. Try and make it unique. Try and, write your own stuff. Be as descriptive as possible. So give the search engines lots of lovely information about your product so they know exactly what it is. The product type, now product type on that spreadsheet, it didn't have product type because it's not something that you have to have in your feed. However, there is evidence to suggest that it is an important part of how they decide whether or not to show. So the data in that product type. It's a complete, there's no kind of, you decide what goes into product type, and the way that Google word it is basically it's your own categorization structure. So I've given it an example of what you might have in the product type. So this would be your website category structure, wouldn't it? Home, women, dresses, maxi dress. You can separate with a dash or with this little arrow. Don't use commas, because commas for Google, they think it's separate entities. So you can see here that this, if somebody's searching for a maxi dress and Google sees a product type, oh, they've got dresses and maxi dresses, yes, perfect. And then you've got maxi dress in the title, maxi dress in the description, lovely, relevant ad, Bob's your uncle, Fanny's your aunt. So I highly recommend to use your product type, even if all you do is copy in your main category that it's in. Even if you just put maxi dress inside product type, that's a start. You know, this is obviously expanding it so that you've got the gender and the main category. Okay, so product type, really important, get some values in there. Images, I think, is one that a lot of people don't necessarily pay enough attention to. I mean, big suppliers will usually provide product images, and that's great. But then all you have to remember is, in a shopping results page, if all the images are exactly the same, how are you going to stand out? So that's one thing to think about. I'm not suggesting if you've got 20,000 products that you have to go and photograph 20,000 products. Start with your top 20 and try and get really unique, appealing images. They need to be high quality, high resolution. They need to have, they'll get disapproved if you've got overlays, like if you've got your brand watermark on it or anything like that, or sort of promotional text overlaid across the top. It will be, you might get away with it for a little while, but eventually they will be disapproved. They need white backgrounds. Don't forget, your main image can have your white background, no overlay. And then you can have lifestyle shots, but they want your main product image to be just the product, not, you know, me standing with my satchel. They just want the satchel. You can have subsequent image, multiple images with your lovely lifestyle shots, but your main image needs to be a nice white background with just the product, the product and just the product, not lots of other stuff. Do a search for your products. Do a search on and see what other products images come up in the shopping results, and look and try and be really objective and look and say, okay, which product image would I click on? All right, I know we all usually go for the cheapest, but if you've got rubbish images, that's the kind of the main focus of a shopping ad, is the image. And if you're not putting your best foot forward when it comes to your images, you really are losing out, and you're not going to get people clicking on your ads. So think about your images. As I said, if you've got a big inventory, you don't need to redo every single image. Take your top 10 selling products, best selling products, and just do those. And I tell you what, the new iPhones, you can get some really good pictures with some good lighting, and one of the newer iPhones, you can get some really cracking product images. So there we go. For optimizing your feed, just focus on these 4 to start with, and then that should see you after a good start, really, with your shopping. Sorry. Here we go. Right. Any questions on that? Anybody got any questions? Can't see any questions popping up. So as I said, if you've got any questions as we go along, just stick them in chat or Q&A. And we'll address them as we go, hopefully. So moving on to your shopping campaigns. There are two types of shopping campaigns. You've got your normal, good old fashioned standard shopping campaign. And then you have the lovely, modern, fancy smart campaigns. Now, Google are always pushing smart campaigns. I mean, they just, yeah, if you're setting up a new Google Ads account, it will automatically default to give you everything smart, because that's what they want. They want to push people towards smart campaigns. Basically, they say that the artificial intelligence, the machine learning is good enough to kind of do everything, and you just kind of set it going, give it your money, and away you go. The difference between these, I mean, standard normal shopping, I mean, you have control over everything. You can control the bids. You can see what searches people are putting in to get your ads to click through to your ads. You can add negative keywords. You can, you can see where your ads, what devices your ads are showing up on, and all that kind of thing. Smart campaigns, nothing. You can see absolutely nothing. You just see how much you spent, how many orders you got, what the profit is, and that's that. You have no control. You can't see search query data. You can't, well, you just can't do anything. You can't, it is total black box shopping campaign, which I'm not saying is a bad idea, but they don't always work. You just have to be aware that that's what they are. It includes remarketing. So if somebody comes to your website, adds something to their cart, doesn't check out, a smart shopping campaign automatically shows them ads again to try and get them to come back. In a standard campaign, you'd have to set up separate remarketing campaigns, which is not a problem anyway. But smart covers everything. You do need brand new account. You do need to have at least 20 conversions in 45 days to start smart shopping, unless it's a brand spanking new Google Ads account. I think they will let you set up a smart campaign, but I don't know how they have the data. But anyway, can you see? You tell? I'm not enamored. I love smart campaigns, but in the right scenario. Okay. The problem with smart campaigns is that you can set one up, you set it going, it goes out of the gates, great guns, it's just amazing, and you sit back and go, great, getting a fantastic ROI, lovely, everything, and then all of a sudden it just starts to kind of decline, and the performance just kind of dips off and just starts getting to be rubbish, and there's nothing you can do because you have no idea. The only thing you control is the budget and the ROI target. So anyway, I'll stop ranting about smart shopping because I do like them in their own way. That's a whole different webinar. I tend to use them for sort of, if I've got some best-selling products, I'll have a single product in a smart shopping campaign and then give Google the reins and say go away, and then it can work really, really well. But I would recommend starting with a normal shopping campaign if you can, if you have the time. So let's go down here. Okay, structure of a shopping campaign. You have your campaign at the top, then you have ad groups. And in a normal search campaign, inside an ad group, you would have keywords. You don't have keywords in shopping. What you have inside an ad group is your product group. Okay. I know you set your bids at the product group level. So you have your main campaign, you can have multiple ad groups, and then inside each ad group, you can have a product group or multiple product groups, just like you can with keywords. Okay. Again, this was something that I don't know why, but I just kind of couldn't get my head around this when I first started and trying to figure out how to organize it all. So I'm trying to kind of, hopefully this explains how the structure of it all works. And your bids, your bids are set usually at the product group level. Okay, you can set them at the ad group, but as soon as you change a product group bid, you can no longer bid at the ad group level. So it's easier to say your product groups are where you decide what you're going to pay per click. Okay, does that make sense? Hopefully it does. Inside, oh, come on, let's go down there. There we go. So what is a product group? So a product group can be, a product group can be made up of any element of your product feed. So, for example, I've used the example here. So I've got my ad group. This is my ad group. Okay. And I want to split it into product groups. So I have a product group for each brand, right? So I only have 2 brands. So my ad group is split into 2 product groups, brand 1 and brand 2, right? Now I can then further subdivide that product group by any other element of the feed, right? So I decide that my brand product group, I now want to subdivide that so that I have below that, I have another product group for each category that I have. Menswear, ladies wear, children's wear, whatever, right? You can then, as I put up here, you can subdivide by any attribute once. So if I've used brand up here, I can't then suddenly add brand again down here because I've obviously already split it by brand at the top. Right? So I can subdivide by any attribute in my feed, whether that's category, brand, product type, price, well, not price actually, we'll come back to that, custom label, product category, as in Google product category, anything, right down to the item IDs. So right down to individual products level. Okay. Did I do another slide here? So some examples, I've just put some examples here. So the first, as in this one I've done here, you could have an ad group, and then you could say, I want my products subdivided by brand, then by product category, and then by item ID. So I can see individual items, and every item ID at this bottom level here will only be the items within this product category for this brand. Okay, and then you'd have another set, which would be the second brand with all those categories and all those item IDs. So you've got every product is split out in a logical manner. This is the one, my favorite one that I like to use. I use a custom label, which is where the feed tool comes in. I use a custom label to allocate a price band to all my products. So I might have under £5, 5 to 10, 10 to 20, 20 to 30, 30 to 50, 50 to 100, blah, blah, blah. And then I can create my campaigns to have all my products that are under £5 in one product group. So I know that they're cheap items. I don't want to pay much for those, bid much for those, because they're hard to make a profit on. But I can then separate my more expensive products so I can see exactly the value of the products that I'm bidding on. Does that make sense? But this one here, you might have your price bands, then by product category, then by brand, then by item ID. I mean, it's up to you. You can do anything, as I said. And again, on YouTube, if you go to bit.ly/EEM-Google-shopping, I've got a whole tutorial on YouTube on, well, it goes through the whole setting up Merchant Center, and then it walks you through setting up the shopping campaign as well. So well worth going to have a look at that to sort of see how to structure and set up a shopping campaign. Okay. So I hope that makes sense. It's always very difficult to kind of explain this, and unfortunately I can't really kind of, the video, the reason I say to go and watch this tutorial is because I can't show you live how to do this at the moment, because obviously for confidentiality I can't show a client's account, but in the video I do, because obviously I can blur out everything that's personalized. So well worth going to have a look at that if you want to see more about getting that shopping campaign set up from start to finish. Okay, so most common mistakes. Okay, the number one mistake I see is that somebody builds a campaign, they create one ad group, or it automatically creates one ad group which says ad group number one, and then all the products are in one ad group with one bid. And you know, I'm sure I don't need to say that that's, if you've got half a dozen products and they're all the same price, maybe you can get away with it. But if you've got a lot of products, vastly different prices, you know, you'll have some bestsellers and you'll have some ones that don't do very well. And you need to be able to bid according to how products perform, which actually takes me to the next biggest mistake, which is not, they're kind of linked, because if everything's in one ad group and one product group, you can only pay the same amount for every product when you per click. So by splitting them out, like I've discussed here, I can then be paying, this might be Nike running shoes, okay? And this might be, I don't know, Adidas sweatbands. You know, these are 80, 90, 100, 150 quid. These might be 199. I don't want to pay the same bid for both of these. And by doing it this way, by breaking things out, you can bid differently, which is what, you know, which is what mistake number two is. Even if people do like have a nice structure and separate nicely, they just leave it. They don't go back on a regular basis and say, okay, which products are spending money, getting conversions, getting a really good ROI, let's increase the bids on those, and let's look for all the products that are not getting conversions but aren't profitable. Let's knock the bids down on those. And also, where are the products that are getting loads of clicks and not converting and not getting any orders? You know, you need to adjust your bids. This makes a massive difference. This is where the real kind of you get the real results with Google Shopping. Setting it up right in the first place, yes, that makes a big difference. But it's this consistently going through, looking at your performance every week, every month, you know, as often as you can, depending on, you know, how much you're spending, and constantly making adjustments. That is what will give you the really good results. You know, like, so you know, we've got consistently get 700, 800% ROI, but that's only because we're constantly doing this. And even, you know, some products will just get excluded because they just, for some reason, never work. They get loads of clicks and nobody ever buys. You know, sometimes you just have to say, get rid of it. Let's not have it in the feed. Let's not have it in the campaign, because we focus on the stuff that's working. Okay. So I can't stress that one enough, that you need to, again, I've got another optimization video on YouTube which talks all about how to do this. It takes about 5 minutes. You can do it in 5 minutes a week, you know, at the very basic level. And even if you do that, it will make a difference. You'll see it making a difference. Third mistake, not using negative keywords. Again, I think because you don't use keywords, you don't choose your keywords for Google Shopping, I think a lot of people forget that you can still use negative keywords. Because you will find, again, because, you know, Google just looks at your product page and says, oh, that's relevant. You will find that you'll show up for stuff that is not relevant, or more importantly, is relevant, but is just too general. Okay, so let's think of an example. Let's talk about running shoes. Okay, so I'm a sports shop and I sell running shoes. Now you'd think I would want to show up for the term running shoes, but that is such a broad term that you could potentially get a lot of traffic for people at a very low level of intent, if you like. You know, I'm just kind of, well, I want to start running and I really don't know. So I'm just going to search for running shoes and see what's there. I'm not ready to buy. And if you don't keep an eye on these queries that you're showing up for, and how you could be spending a lot of money on that term, running shoes, because it's too broad, too general, and people don't buy when they come, they're just browsing. So if you add running shoes as a negative keyword, you then stop wasting all that money on the general terms, and you can focus on somebody who's searching for a Nike, I don't know what style, Nike Asics Gel Nimbus running shoes. Because if I'm looking for Asics Gel Nimbus running shoes, I'm kind of sound as if I'm pretty ready to buy. All right. So you have to kind of get your head around, it's not just, I've put just irrelevant searches here because those will come up as well. You know, for example, you don't want to show up for Nike if you don't sell Nike, or vice versa. You know, you don't show up for Adidas if you don't sell Adidas shoes. You need to add Adidas as a negative keyword if you don't sell Adidas shoes. But it is also adding negative keywords to block you from those really broad, general, like shoes. They'll probably show you for just somebody searching for shoes. Well, you don't want to show up just for shoes because it's way too general. I love how I get on my high horse about this, but it's just like, oh, it makes such a difference if you look at this. So it's not just irrelevant searches, it's the very general, broad kind of searches that are just they're too wishy-washy. So that's another massive mistake. Is not, and you can see your search queries inside a Google shopping campaign. Have I got a shopping campaign? This is a test one, but I mean, this is just, I haven't got any active ones here. But inside a shopping campaign, you can still, if you go to keywords, obviously there won't be any keywords here, but you can still go to search terms underneath and it will show you all the search terms that you're showing up for. And then you can add them as negative keywords. You know, as you go down the list, you can see then. Okay, just check the Q&A. There we go, nothing there. Okay, so these three, if you just do these three, you'll be well on your way to getting much better results with your Google Shopping. And talking of results, oh, that was a really good segue, and I didn't even plan that. KPIs, so key performance indicators. You really need an easy way to just have something to look at every day, every week, whatever, however often you want to do it, where you can just look and go, am I making money? Is this profitable? Yes or no? Okay. The main ones are these last four here that you want to spend. What you're spending, the cost, the conversions. So if you're e-commerce, it's a purchase. The conversion value, which obviously is the value of your conversion, and the ROAS, the return on ad spend. Okay, so that's the revenue that you've generated divided by the cost that you spent. So that's the ROI. Okay, so these are the kind of main ones. What's that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. The impressions. So that impressions are how many times your ad showed up. What is the best? Right, I'll come back to that question. I'll finish this one and I will come back to the question about the single product ad groups. Okay. So impressions, how many times your ad was actually seen. So, and the clicks, how many times it was clicked, click-through rate. So that's your clicks divided by the number of times it showed up. And then obviously cost, conversion value, and ROAS. If you can just track these four, then you will know whether or not you're making money. Okay. I'll come back to that Q&A in a moment. So what's the easiest way? I mean, you can see all of this inside a Google Ads account, okay, but it's not, did you say there's a guide on how to use most effective keywords for products? I'll come back to the Q&A in a moment when I just finish to show you here. You can look, so inside your Google Ads account, you can see all this information here in the columns. But it's, you know, if you've got lots of campaigns, it's not really kind of easy to see in a format, rather. It's not in a format that makes it easy to absorb and to kind of to see. So what I would recommend, well, there are two things that you can do. Google have a new reporting dashboard feature inside Google Ads. Okay. And this is one that I set up inside a client account. So I've just set it, it's just a scorecard at the top here. What I've spent, £1,700. How many orders? 279. The conversion value over cost. So that is the equivalent of 729% ROI, and what my conversion rate is. Okay. So that tells me, I can just look at that at a glance and go, what's my target? 700%. Yes, I'm on target, I'm above target. No need to worry. So to access this, to set yourself up a dashboard, let's come down here. You just go to the reports, the reports icon up here, and then you just go to dashboards. And I've created the starter dashboard, but when you come in here for the first time, there'll be nothing here. So it'll have a link at the bottom here to create a dashboard. Oh, hang on, let's delete this one and then I can show you what it looks like. I'm going to delete this. Okay, so here we go. You can either create a new dashboard from scratch and you just like drag the various elements that you want in, or you can open the sample dashboard, and that's what I had created in that screenshot. Now the sample dashboard is a bit useless, really, to be honest, because it just has cost, interactions, interaction rates, which, whatever, not much use to anybody. But all you do when you come in here is you have to save and edit it first up here, and then when you click the pencil, it allows you to choose what metrics you want down here. So I would get rid of all of those. I would have my costs, and then once you just start typing, there we are, conversions, and then I would go, maybe I would actually be quite nice to have revenue. Here we go, revenue, and then my return on ad spend, which is in the interface here, it is conversion, whoops, value over cost. Okay. So those are my 4 metrics that I've chosen. I think I could probably add more. Actually, I haven't tried that. This is a bit fairly recent, this. That's just my little diagrammy things underneath. Hit save, and there we have. So I've got my cost, my conversions, my revenue, my conversion value over cost. Various other little useful little campaign performance by device. That's quite a handy one. But this is just a good place to get somewhere where you can look at. Yeah, Gavin, it is kind of, yeah, it's easier than Data Studio, which I'm going to come to in a sec, but it's a lot less flexible, and it's I'll show you the kind of why I don't like it as much when I show you this report now, because actually that's something where, up here it says here last 7 days. So you choose what data period you want, whether that's last 7 days, last 30 days, whatever. Okay, so I'm going to set it to last 30 days. Save. Okay, so when I save it now, and I'm viewing it here, I can only see the last 30 days. Like all I can do is pick a day and see the last 30 days from before that day. I can't say, well, I want to see the last 7 days. I want to see whether it's, you know, how it looks for the last 7 days, and then see the 14 days, and then see 30 days. So it's a little bit more restrictive, but if you just want to be able to, while you're in your account, jump to reports, say, how's it looking for the last 30 days? Then it's great. And yes, you can add loads of different, you know, you can add loads of different, you know, you can add lots of cards here, scorecards, charts. So yes, very similar. It's kind of a simplified version of Data Studio, but it does have its limitations. So, but it's a good place to start, just to get yourself something to quickly look at every time you come into your account and say, where am I at? How's it doing? The alternative, so this is a screenshot, an example of a Data Studio report for a client, is, as Gavin quite rightly said, is Data Studio. So datastudio.google.com. Much more flexible, because as you can see here, this, where I've got ROI and it's actually a percentage, I'm not going to, this isn't a Data Studio tutorial, it's just to illustrate what you can do with it. That's the same, that is the same, you can see it's the same, it was, where it's gone, where's it gone? There. It's the same data that I've got in here, okay? But I can format it in a way, I can format that as a percentage, which kind of makes more sense to a lot of people to say, you know, so my ROI is 7.29, but if I say ROI of 729%, it kind of registers with people. And it's a little bit more flexible. You can have a date picker at the top. So I can come in here, I can choose any, I can't, this is obviously just a screenshot. I can choose any date range I want. I can compare with previous periods and different, so it's much more flexible. And I would recommend, if you can, to set yourself up a Data Studio report. So what I've done is, so I know you can see this, but I can't because I'm moved down. I have actually got a free Data Studio reporting template. This link, bit.ly EEM dashboard, I've bypassed this bypasses the opt-in. So it just takes you to the landing page where there is a link to the dashboard, a video explaining how to set it up, and instructions. It's got written instructions and a video to show you how to get that set up. Now this dashboard, basically it's kind of this on steroids, because it's got, I think, 12 pages to it. So you've got pages that show you performance by device, by gender, by age, by location. It's got it's got loads in it. Don't get too overwhelmed if it's not something that you're familiar with. If you can get this set up and just only have a look at page 1, which is essentially what we've got here, then you will be able to know where you're at any moment in time. Okay, and that's the most important thing. Okay, knowing, you know, knowing how it's doing. If, you know, so many people they just pay the money over to Google and then, you know, don't really know how they're doing. So if you can just use that Data Studio template, if you have trouble with it, just reach out and I'm more than happy to help you get that set up, because I know it can be a little bit kind of tricky if you're not familiar with Data Studio, but it should hopefully, I've done the video, so the instructions should hopefully enable you to get it set up reasonably easily. So yeah, right, I'm going to look at some Q's and A's. Okay, let's have a look. Right. Okay, what is best way or app to apply single product ad groups if I have 100 or thousands of products? Okay, the best, okay, so single product ad groups, when I was talking about structuring your campaigns here, hang on, let's go back to, so I was kind of saying here, you can have an ad group, multiple product groups and multiple sub-product groups in an ad group. You can have an ad group with a single product group in it. Just so an ad group is a single product, and I do use this quite a lot. But as you can imagine, if you've got, you know, as the question suggests, if you've got hundreds and thousands of products, to manually go in and create an ad group for every single product and then kind of make sure that you've only got that product in and you're excluding all the others, it's a nightmare. The tool I use to do this for my shopping campaigns is a tool called PPC Samurai. It is kind of it's a more advanced tool. It's really aimed at agencies, to be honest, rather than individual retailers. But if but that will automatically build these single product ad groups and then keep them all in sync so that everything is in the right place and organized. Another tool that will do this is Optimizer, OPTMYZR, Optimizer. That will also build single product ad groups for shopping campaigns and will again always keep them in sync with it. It's automatic. It's always keeping everything in sync, adding new ad groups where they're needed, removing or pausing any when the product is no longer in the feed. So if you're a retailer, if you're an agency, I would recommend PPC Samurai. If you're like a retailer just looking for a way to help structure your campaigns better, Optimizer is probably a bit more user-friendly, to be perfectly honest. So that's what I would recommend for that. Hannah, did you say there is a guide on how to use the most effective keywords for products? Yes, yeah, that is the link in the blog. That's the blog post. Actually, if you just go to the website and go to the blog, and it's this Google Shopping product title optimization best practices. Okay, and that will give you the information you need there for structuring your product titles. Okay. Okay, David, what's the max CPC you should be paying for clicks for women's scarves? I see you have a CPC of 22p in this account. What's the highest average CPC you ever go to? Wow. Oh, I hate when people answer with, it depends. Because it does depend. I have some accounts where I'm paying 2 and 3p cost per clicks and it's going great guns, and I have other accounts where I don't know. Do you know what, off the top of my head, I don't think I could tell you what the highest CPC is. I find probably a normal range is usually somewhere between 10 and 20p, 30p. It depends on how competitive it is. It definitely depends on the products and how, I guess, how expensive the products as well. Sometimes that can have an impact. So it really is difficult to just give you a figure. So say for women's scarves, the way I would look at it is, it's not so much the CPC that you should be paying, it's the CPC that you can afford to be paying. That's probably a better way of putting it. So if you're selling Hermes scarves, which are hundreds of pounds, then you're probably more than happy to pay £1 a click and spend 50 quid to get an order if your order is going to be for £400. If you're selling scarves that are £9.99, then there's no way that you can sustain paying probably even 50p a click, because you've got to think about what's your conversion rate. Does it take 50 clicks to get one order? Does it take 100 clicks to get one order? So there's so many variables. I feel like I'm evading the question, but I'm not. I'm trying to answer it. So yeah, so for women's scarves, I would imagine that's probably pretty competitive. There's a very broad kind of market for women's scarves. So if your price, I would look at your price point, and if you can pay 50p a click and make money, then 50p a click is fine. If you, my gut for that would probably say if they're low to mid-range scarf, what would you pay for a scarf? I can't remember the last time I bought a scarf. I don't know, £20 for a scarf maybe. I'd probably sort of be expecting to see cost per clicks of 10 to 20p probably. But this is where the optimization comes in, and this is where the negative keywords come in, because you probably don't want to show up for scarves, or possibly even women's scarves, because that's way too broad. You want to show up when somebody searches for something that is very relevant to what you've got on your website. So for example, royal blue silk scarf. If you sell a royal blue silk scarf, then you want to show up for that, not just women's scarves, because it's too broad. So this is where, and then you'll find overall your CPC will probably be, you'll be able to bid a little bit higher because you're getting fewer rubbishy clicks. Does that make sense? I think I feel as if I went totally round and round the houses then on that one, but can you let me know if that makes sense, David, please? Otherwise, and if not, I will try and talk again. Okay, what about Google Ads Editor and how to do it for SPAGs? I personally have not used Google Editor to create single product ad groups. I would imagine you can, but it's going to be the same as doing it in the interface, really, because it's still, every time your feed change, oh, thanks, David. Every time your feed changes, every time you've got a new product group, you've got to go into the ads editor, you've got to create an ad group, you've got to filter it down, find the product, stick it in. So yeah, so try it. If you've got, you know, if you're spending money on Google Ads and you have a lot of products and you really want to use single product ad groups, it is worth investing in a tool to build it if you are going to be using it consistently on a long-term basis. Okay. So yeah, I don't know. To be honest, I've not used Google Ads Editor to build single product ad groups. So always that's obviously the best. Okay, Gavin, hi. Have you got to grips with the new cost of goods sold field in shopping feeds? Can I be honest? No. It looks very interesting, but it's new and I don't think it's properly integrated yet. Do you know what? I haven't done anything with it. I can see why they're doing with the with having a cost of goods sold. Obviously, I mean, it's yeah, because ROI, when we're looking at ROI in campaigns, it's only taking into account the revenue and the actual ad cost. There's no product cost in there. But I think I can see why they're doing that, obviously, to give you more accurate ROI figures in your campaigns. But most of my clients, when we talk about this, they kind of, we set a target ROI so that it accounts for, okay, whether it's 50% margin or whatever, and then plus 10% for admin fees, plus you know, my fees and all that kind of stuff. And then so you know, like a 400% ROI would not cover all those costs. So that's why we kind of will have a target of maybe 600 or 700% ROI, because then we know we're covering all of that. But no, I haven't actually done anything with it, Gavin, sorry. Have you? I don't know. I might have a play with it. I might go and have a play with it now. We have scarves ranging from $7.99 right up to $89.99. Okay, so I'm going to have different ad groups for the low price ones and the higher price ones. Yes, that makes sense. So that is where I was talking about having those custom labels so that you can put price bands on your products. So you can say, right, all the products that are under £10, and then maybe the ones that are 10 to 30, and then 30 to 90, or, you know, it depends how many products you've got in each kind of, you have to figure out where to put your thresholds so that you don't have 62 products in one threshold and 2 in the other. But that's definitely why I like doing that kind of structure in my shopping campaigns. So I can see at a glance and say, right, okay, all these products are like 90 quid products. Then I'm happy to A, bid a little more, B, spend a little more before I decide, ooh, that's not working. So yeah, that was definitely have your different ad groups with your different prices, which you can do. Again, you can do it manually as well. But if you can get custom labels in your field, it does make it a little bit easier for you to kind of sort them all out. But yeah, definitely. Let's have a look. We got any more? Any more? I mean, yes, it would be a game changer if properly implemented. I agree. Actually, it sounds like playing to have a play. I do like having a play. To be honest, I don't have a play often enough, but yeah, my problem, to be perfectly honest, having a tool like that would be to actually get the data from the clients. That's probably would be the challenge for me. But if you're running your own campaigns, and obviously you have all that product, that cost price information, then yeah, definitely worth trying. Okay, so just wanted to, the last slide, where was I? My last slide. Yeah, I've got a link here. If you haven't already subscribed to my YouTube channel, please do go along. Here we go, bit.ly EEM-YT. Please do subscribe. I would love to see you there. If you haven't also already joined my Facebook group, I've got a Facebook group, and that's the link to that, EEM-group. I have just started doing a weekly Ask Me Anything. It's on, when is it? Wednesdays, I think. It's on Wednesdays at the moment. We'll see how that goes. But I'm doing like a Facebook Live weekly Ask Me Anything. So please join the group and come and say hello. And then if you've got any, obviously if you've got any follow-up questions, then we can ask. This will be day after tomorrow. Ask me on that. And if any of you are, well, obviously you are running Google Shopping, you can, I do offer a free, like a performance review. So if, basically what the performance review is it's kind of it's not a full-blown audit. It's have a quick chat, see what you're trying to achieve. Then I go and have a look at your account, produce like a review report. So basically I'll look at and highlight, this is what's working really well, this is what's not working really well, and these are kind of opportunities that you might be missing. And then it'll just fit. We have I go over the report on a phone call, and you can ask questions, and then you can go away. And there's no hard sell. You're not obliged to do anything. You can just take the report and run. So if you're interested in booking one of those, then the link is that bit.ly EEM-review. It's also, there's a page on the website with that. You can just go to the website and book that if you're interested. Anyway, so that's all I have. Are there any other questions? And has it been helpful? I mean, please feel free to send feedback. You'll get can you share the links in the chat? Yes, I probably can. I tell you what, okay. I will type them in the chat. You'll have to bear with me. So there's the link for the YouTube. I'm not typing the HTTPS, so you'll probably have to add that bit, but at least if you copy that, that's the link for the Facebook group. And that is for the performance review. I will be sending out, so if you've registered for the webinar because you're here, you will get an email probably tomorrow to a page where you can download these slides anyway. So obviously you'll have all the links then. You'll download the slides and the replay is there as well. And yeah, if you've got any feedback, thanks Marianne, good to see you here. And yeah, if you've got any feedback, please reply to the email that I send out with the link. Thanks Gavin, take care, and please send me feedback. I'd like to know what you liked about it, what you didn't like about it, how I can improve these webinars. I'm always open to suggestions. I always try and cover a lot, and sometimes I think maybe I shouldn't try and cover so much, but let me know what you think. Thanks, David. But that's it from me, and glad to have you here, and I will, yeah, hope to see you in the next one. Thanks ever so much for your time, everybody. and I will see you in the next one. Take care. If you like this video, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and hit the bell icon to be notified when we publish new videos or go live.